Hello, my name is Jamie Franklin. I'm the curator here at the Bennington Museum. And this morning we're going to be looking at an object here in our Gilded Age Gallery for our tours at 10. This, which we lovingly refer to as the Screaming Fence Post, is an object that was created by a farmer named Russell Risley in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, up in a small town, Kirby, just outside of St. Johnsbury. Around the turn of the 20th century, late 19th, early 20th century. Risley was a farmer, but like many Vermont farmers, he was a bit of a Renaissance man. He had a lot of interests and a lot of skills, and in addition to inventing pulley systems that allowed him to transport milk directly from his barn to his house without having to actually go out into the winter cold, he was also a very artistic and expressive farmer. From the accounts that we have, and we only have a few accounts of his actual artistic production, and this is one of the only surviving objects. He created portraits that he would paint on the side of his barn, political figures. One of the other known surviving works is a portrait on barnwood of Governor Fairbanks from up in St. Johnsbury. But he also is said to have painted a portrait of a nude woman that was visible from the side of his barn on the main road that went through Kirby and caused a little bit of a scandal there in the small town in rural Vermont. He also is said to have painted images that covered the inside of his house. And this fence post, which was literally a fence post with the portrait of a screaming man at its top, was likely set out near the entrance to his farm on the main road to kind of warn people that had heard stories about this quirky Vermont farmer, to kind of keep them away. He is said to have been, friendly within the community, but because of the kind of quirks that he had, it seems that he got a lot of people that were interested in just kind of gawking. And so he put up a sign at the entrance to his farm with red letters, smallpox, written on a whiteboard sign. And this screaming fence post was probably just intended to kind of keep the gawkers at bay. And it's a way of, Vermonters kind of expressing their kind of tendency to be a little, introverted, wanting their own space and time, but being very creative and interested in kind of expressing themselves in non-traditional ways. This is exhibited in the context of our Gilded Age Gallery. I think one of our tours at 10, near the beginning of the pandemic, gave an overview of this gallery, but it looks at the kind of transition during the late 19th and into the early 20th century, how kind of the Industrial Revolution and manufacturing took over in Vermont and began to kind of usurp the kind of agricultural traditions which we so strongly associate with Vermont. But of course, there continued to be farmers like Russell Risley who had, these sort of eccentricities and creativity, that they still were making these wonderful things while farming, milking their cows, and doing the things that you associate with Vermont. And so I was really excited to be able to bring this into the collection back in 2018. It's a relatively new acquisition. It had actually been in an exhibition of Vermont folk art that traveled the state in 1983, and I had seen the reproduction of this object in a catalog for that show. And then it showed up for auction in 2018, and I was so excited. It was one of those objects that curators get really excited about because they have them in the back of their head, but they don't know where they are. And we were able, with the assistance of Lyman Orton, to purchase this object for our collection, and we can share this story, this kind of classic Vermont story of the farmer being able to kind of express himself in his own unique way. And so this is one of my favorite recent acquisitions to the museum's collection, the Screaming Fence Post by Russell Risley of Kirby, Vermont.